Good morning. It is September 14th. I'm going to try to take it down a notch. Yesterday, my post on my YouTube was a little heightened with emotion. You know, because I lend my hand in the restaurant industry, I see a variety of different individuals, and I can see how the outside world has affected them. I don't usually go around talking people off ledges, but I also know where to set my boundary and just to do my job, because it is my job, and I respect who allows me to do my job the best of my ability. You know, we may not all agree on the same thing, but that's just anything. In every situation, you're not going to agree with everyone. You just have to respect whatever their thoughts are, their image is, whatever they are projecting into the world. Like I said yesterday, as long as there's no harm. I'm Kitryn Marie, I reside in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm an artist, a writer, published author, a speaker, a life and a business coach, teach personal development classes, teach art enrichment classes. I always say, not a doctor, not a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, don't play one on TV, but please offer me the role. Social media, people are so inclined to want to disagree and argue with you because they do not understand your circumstance. Had some clown this morning, and that's just what I'll call it, some clown who said, well, just pay your bills. I laughed. I just laughed. If you have been one of the fortunate ones to have not lost your job, trying to scramble to see how you could live, keep your house, keep your car, buy groceries, take care of your family, take care of your pets, congratulations. You are blessed more than you'll ever know. But the majority over the last couple of years, people have lost their jobs. You know, companies have downsized. Hang on 1 minute. Companies have downsized. Corporations have restructured. Restaurants have gone under. It's been almost, a while. I had lost my job. A place, an entity that I really liked, and I would have stayed there probably forever. But the owner of the building sold underneath the restaurant I was lending my hand, and we were given 2 weeks' notice to vacate. Now, in the restaurant industry, there is always lots of turnover. That's just a given. Usually, if you are not a career restaurant person, and you go on to go do other things, restaurant workers go where the money is. We have all seen in all of our lives, loyalty only goes so much. But when your paycheck is not providing what you need, usually people with common sense know it's time to go, and you just go find something else or do something else. Also, most restaurant workers really do have this entrepreneurial side where they've always got other hustles and things going on. And it's usually just the corporate world that wants to suck you into that slavery. And I talk about that a lot in my business coaching class. And there are things this morning I want to discuss about that business coaching, because I want to make this perfectly clear. I teach creative-minded women who want to start side hustles. When you have that entrepreneurial spirit, in the event you lose your job, there's always something else to fall back on. At the time of when I lost my last restaurant job, because I'm pretty content and happy with where I am, and I hope to continue that, but you know, like I would say, fate turns on a dime, and you never know. You never know when the rug is going to get pulled out from underneath you, and you make the best with what you have to work with. But at the time of losing the last position, to no fault of my own, I was scrambling. My horse had gotten sick. My car had died. The air conditioning in the house had went out. And I've always, like I said, always have had my hand in food and beverage. I went to go bartend for a community center, an event center here in my area. I was doing liquor demonstrations for my now competitor. What else was I doing? Oh, and had my hand in banquet bartending for that. I think I've done that almost probably all of my life. I've had my hand in that extra banquet thing. In fact, I worked last night a banquet, and it was fun. They got married, and they did it right there at the site. People still believe in love, believe it or not. But anyway, when I was scrambling, you know, I always like to be educated. Whatever I speak on, whatever I teach, I want to be educated. As a content creator, as a person who has had a human experience that has affected you, you're allowed to talk about it. You are allowed to speak on how that matter affected you. And as I was grappling for life at that time, trying to be the responsible woman that I believe I am, I was drowning. I was having anxiety attacks. I was having panic attacks. Professionals, people have those things. Regular working class people, when stress becomes so much and you no longer can kind of function, I won't say in reality, because you are living in the reality as it happens. You are doing what you can within what you have to work with. Now, at that particular time, you know, I was still getting all my bills, and I was still trying to market all of my classes, and I was still trying to do all the content creating. It was short of a nightmare. And as I'm looking at all of these statements of all of my bills, because of the business coaching class that I taught prior to the pandemic, and I will not fight anybody over my words, the pandemic, because that experience affected me in ways that really, really drew a line between people. You think your way, I'll think my way. I know how it affected me, and I see now how it has affected you. That's the life coach in me. I analyze everything. I take everything apart. Like I said yesterday, as a human, I want to look at people and go, what is wrong with you? As a professional, I want to know who did this to you. Why do you act like this? What were you made to believe that is not true? And now we are seeing a trickle-down effect of people who listen to outside sources that in the long run hurt them mentally, emotionally. So as I was trying to figure out how I was going to survive, I just started educating myself in finance. When I have money, I am extremely good with it. When I don't have money, I can make 15 cents stretch. When you owe somebody something, you at least have conversation with them so they know you're not trying to negate on anything. And as I was re-educating myself and looking at my statements, it made me reflect back to the business coaching class that I taught with women who want to start these side hustles, how they were trying to have this extra money, this extra purpose in their life to make them feel whole based on a talent and a gift, I was reminded of Missouri's usury law. Most people don't know Missouri's usury law. If you are not a licensed creditor lender, whichever company or entity that you are dealing with, they are only allowed to bill you a certain percentage APR per year. It's up to everyone to educate themselves on how their statements read. That's with your car mechanic, that's with your health insurance, that is with your utility bills. Even when you are grocery shopping, look at your interest rate and look at the prices of all of your items. You are entitled to be educated on how that statement reads. And at that particular time, and even to current, I have become more educated on how care credit works and the predatory practices and the kickbacks that entities get when they are trying to push this credit card system on you, that if you do not make good in that 12, 18, 24 months of that promo, from day one, when you sign up, if you miss anything, it negates the promo and you are immediately charged an interest rate from day one. I don't do credit cards. I don't believe in credit cards. I believe live within your means. If you can pay cash or if you can pay per your paycheck, buy what you need, put your wants aside, try to save. So this morning when I was speaking on different things and I had made a comment under somebody's something talking about their cat or their dog or whatever, I had explained my experience, and I don't know what's going on with my light. I had explained my experience and what I had learned from Care Credit and how they are under the Synchronicity Financial, which is on the New York Stock Exchange, backed by Wall Street. I also was talking a little bit more about how all of these entities who are pushing Care Credit, they get the kickback. Now, as an educated consumer and as a business coach teaching women, I think all consumers need to be aware of what they are getting themselves into without knowing what the bottom line really looks like. And when you are being charged from a credit card, you want to know where your money is going, and is it going to the principal or is it going to predatory profit so you never get caught up. So as I was trying to explain this morning to somebody, they came all unglued. It seems to be a lot. If you are telling somebody something that has happened to you and they have not lived that experience, they want to come at you because it goes against the belief system that they've been made to believe. And that is across the board. When I am teaching my business coaching classes for creative-minded women, we talk about how you can go live, which I prefer video over going live, but I can do it. Part of the theatrical part of me, I suppose, the part of the speaker in me that I try to teach my groups. When you were having a video where you were going live, whoever you were talking to, you're talking to just somebody that is sitting across from you as if you've invited them into your home and you're just having a conversation. You look them in the eye, you are animated, and you express. as a content creator, it is your responsibility to educate, to inspire, to inform, and to entertain. And if your personality goes against somebody else's grain because they are not as vibrant, animated, more educated, it makes people intimidated. It makes people become angry. It makes people question, well, what are your skills? And who do you think you are? And that's why I always say, when you are telling a story and it is factual and it has affected you, you get to tell your story. That's part of the First Amendment. You are able to creatively express whether it's a good story, whether it's a bad story, whether there was loss involved, whether you gained something. You are allowed to tell the story. You are allowed to express how it affected you. And if that other person, that other entity is having issues with how you are telling your story, they need to reflect on why it is triggering them. And again, that's part of the life coaching things that I talk about, teach in my vision board class. So as this morning I was trying to explain how care credit works and how my education and what I have learned, the basic consumer is not aware of predatory practices that entities have in order to profit, and they don't care about your job loss. They don't care that you're sick. They don't care that you've had a death in your family. They don't care how your animal ran away or was taken, or this morning there was a coyote in my field. I don't know if I said that this morning, and I had to bring all my dogs in. Those entities, those companies, they don't care as long as they are profiting off of whatever it is that they are offering you. There are usually only like two options. Why are there only two options? As a business coach, as a consumer who watches where her money goes, and as you are spending your money, why are you not asking, why are there not more options? Why are there not more facilities that work on a sliding scale? Why are there not facilities, if you walk into any human medical, ER, urgent care, they cannot turn you away because you have lack of finances. Why are other businesses not set up like that? Why is it people feel when they are taking their dog or their cat, their bird, their rabbit, their horse to a vet, why are there not other options? Why are there not sliding scales? Why are there not affordable payments that people can make where these outside entities aren't looking at just profit? I talk about those things in my business coaching class. I am educated to teach that. I'm amazed at those who feel attacked because you were bringing something forward that nobody else has talked about. I had written something earlier. Let me see if I can find this here, because I love to write, and I haven't written on my blog in quite some time. Where is it? You know, when you're telling your story and people are not understanding where you are coming from, when you were trying to explain ethics, fairness, and having compassion, lawmakers need to take into consideration some of this when they are setting up the rules for these other companies who are starting, who are looking to be progressive in a time where we all need help. You know, we have consumer rights. There are welfare protection programs that are in place. You know, there needs to be transparency. I'm reading off of my cheat sheet here. There needs to be transparency. There needs to be an emergency care mandate. You know, the usury law needs to be enforced. I'm looking at what else I wrote this morning. Hang on. I wrote so much this morning, and like I said, I haven't written on my blog. And I do plan in January to introduce a bill on the Missouri floor over how some of these practices are billing out. And I haven't quite got all the details to all that, and the more I get that together, you know, that's one of those things I am quietly working on behind the scenes. But I think it's important for people to see with what I have learned and how I want others to benefit from my loss. You know, we need to be protected as consumers right now. Oh, I don't know where it is. Like I said, I wrote so much. And as a business coach, trying to encourage women, or really anybody, if you lose your job, what are you going to do? You get sick, you still have to pay your bills. How are you affording life? You know, who are you going to depend on, not so much financially, because you will see exactly who is in your corner when you are in dire straits. You will see exactly who is in your corner when you are grappling at life, when people are not understanding the position that you have been put in out of your control. You know, you do get sick. What else are you capable of doing that you can afford life? And then if you have a service or you have a product that is attached to a price tag, and we'll use my totes as example, $40, $45 for a handcrafted tote. Who's affording that? Who is your target market? And are you really going to profit off of the consumer who really wants what you have, but maybe your price is too high? Is there something else within that line that is at a lower price value, but not, what's the word I'm looking for, not devaluing what the product is? There needs to be more options. There needs to be somebody who is sticking up for the consumer where times are tough and we need things in this life to live, to survive, services, our health care. Right now I'm looking at Medicare for next year. That is a freaking joke. You know, everybody's talking about their health insurance and how they can't even meet their deductible, or the ones that even have health care and they don't even use it. And here, Medicare is attached to Social Security, which I know I'm getting way far away from my original message here. But it's like, when do we start to wake up to see where our money is actually going and where these kickbacks are heading to? Or the lobbyists that are on the floor that are, you know, saying to these lawmakers, but if you do this, this person can profit while somebody else is suffering. Talk about all of that in my business coaching class. The class is $65. I came down on price by $30 because I think this is the time all of us need to be aware of what happens if corporate really does completely go under. You know, do we go back to a barter system? Do we go back to mom and pop? You know, we see so many people in the city, in the suburbs, who are now trying to quietly quit. so they can take their family and they can go off in the country and, try to homestead or try to homeschool. But where are you at with what you are educated on and in that you can speak about? So when people come at you because they don't understand your position or how a certain circumstance affected your life, like I said yesterday, I was interviewed by that magazine, which I'm very thankful for, boldjourney.com. My dogs, they're behind me. Lost my train of thought now. Completely lost my train of thought. But if you're not educated in what you were speaking on, and you were talking about how things have what your experience has been in your life, and those that are misinformed, who do not understand, they need to sit back quietly and observe and have a little bit more compassion. Show some ethical value in morality to what you are trying to do to better somebody who needs what you have in a service, what you have to offer in a product. But I am Kitryn Marie. I'm an artist, a writer, speaker, life and business coach, teach a variety of art classes. Sorry for the little pauses in between there. I was on a roll and I completely lost my train of thought. But if you would like to learn more, reach out, leave a comment below. People don't understand who you are. People will never know what you have to offer if you do not tell them who you are, what you do, what your background is, really what your story is, the why in your story. Why did you even begin to do any of this? And I talk about all that in my life coaching class when I'm trying to explain to most people you are a product of your environment. Who and what has influenced you has got you in this place right now. And are you really stuck? Or are you just afraid to do anything different? And if you don't have something to fall back on, having options. Option A, option B, option C. In the event you need to just afford a simple, basic lifestyle, what can you do? How are you going to do it? But reach out, kitrynmarie@gmail.com. Be thankful, be happy, be blessed. You don't know what's going to happen, and you've got to be prepared. You really do. You need to be prepared. You need to be aware of all the things that are out there for you, and just not that one thing that keeps wanting to attack you. But fate turns on a dime. You decide what side of the coin you want to be on. You take care on this Sunday, September 14th, although I keep wanting to say November 14th. Be happy, be blessed. I'd love to hear from you. If you're interested in the class, just reach out. Take care. See you soon.